Oh, good evening, everybody. I thought I would put together a video review. I was going to do a written review with a bunch of pictures, but I'm too lazy for that, so I figured I'd just film a quick video. I wanted to review this tuning hammer that I've been using for the past few weeks. It's the Stewart PTH-5-1. I'm not sure where he got the name from. Maybe he named her for Philip Stewart. I don't know. In any case, it's a really cool tuning hammer. So let me go over some of the things that are great about it and some of the things that are not so great. So first of all, it's extremely light. I would say it's probably on par with maybe a Fuyan, maybe one of the shorter Fuyans. It's very, very light. It's definitely lighter than the Falk hammer that I own. In terms of the hammers I've used, gosh, I've had a Yan, I've had a Hale, I've had a Shaft. I haven't owned a Fuyan, but I've used someone else's. For years, I used a Mother Goose Tools plateau lever, which I love. I've also got a really nice Falk hammer with a carbon fiber shaft. You know, they're all great hammers. I would say where this one excels is in its lightness. And without a doubt, it is the stiffest hammer I've ever used. It is extremely stiff. It almost looks like a torque wrench. So you can see it's skeletonized. Well, it's sort of like an I-beam construction, really. So some of the really unique things about it are the way this torque tube is connected. Which you can see. He has it in there, and then there's a screw from the other side. And the way that joint is done, I mean, it basically makes the two pieces like one. I mean, it's absolutely rigid. There is no play in it whatsoever. And what I really love about the material, so this is a titanium torque tube, and then this is an aluminum lever. One of the great things about aluminum is it's very rigid, it's very light, and also I found it really transmits back to your hand a lot of feedback. I think better than a lot of carbon fiber levers. I've always been sort of skeptical of the feedback you get on carbon fiber because if you think about it, they make bikes out of carbon fiber because they absorb shock and they smooth out the ride. Well, you know, I've kind of felt on carbon fiber levers that I didn't get all the feedback that I got from even some steel shafted levers, and this one gives absolutely great feedback. You can feel everything the pin is doing, and it gives absolutely not one bit. There is no flex in it whatsoever. So it's a 5-degree angle. It's kind of cool how he sloped down the shaft there to make the 5-degree angle. Now the tip that it comes with is a tip of his own. And if you can notice, I've put a Watanabe tip on. It uses the same thread. But his tip is absolutely beautifully machined. And I love the tip, how it tapers down. And one of the unique things about it, I don't know if I can get it to focus, but you can see how the points basically are rounded a little bit. And I think the idea was to be gentler on the plating on tuning pins. I haven't had that much trouble with my tips tearing up tuning pins, but the issue I had with this tip is it just didn't fit great on the pins. There was way too much rocking. I don't know if it's this individual tip that I got or what. I contacted him and I sent him a video and he said, yeah, something's not right. So fortunately, a Watanabe tip screws right on, and so I screwed this one on. It fits great on most pins. It's just a Watanabe number 2. I think this is the only size tip they're making. And he said it's supposed to fit everything from like a 0-aught to a 2-aught. I found it didn't fit anything well. I wish they would just maybe copy a Watanabe tip, just take the exact profile and just make ones like that, because boy, the machining on this thing is just gorgeous. The finish quality, I love the taper. You know, it's just exquisitely made. I mean, it makes the Watanabe tip look really cheap with the plating on it. I just love this. There's no plating, so it's really great. So as you go down the hammer, so it has a ball grip. Sorry for my not so great hands. I'm sure they're dirty. It's an acetate ball grip. Now, it's kind of a cool grip in that it kind of allows a lot of different grips on the hammer. If you're the kind of tuner that just grabs on the end, you can definitely do that. But as you can see, it's kind of on the small side. Now I have larger hands, but it's definitely a little bit on the small side. What's kind of cool about this little notch, though, is that when you hold it, you can hold it more traditional style, and you can put your thumb on the side and almost tuck your pinky finger down in that slot. Or if you want a little bit more torque, you can kind of slide down, and you can tuck your ring finger in there. Or you can grab it sort of like this at the end. You can tilt your hand over, put your thumb in that grip. It gives you a nice grip. So, you get used to it. I would love it if it were a little larger. And the other thing I wish that he would do on the next one maybe is to round this edge over. You can see where it kind of comes in. And, if you're grabbing it a certain way, that ridge can kind of dig into your hand a little bit. The finish on it is really beautiful. It's really, really well machined. It's an anodized coating, I believe. I don't think it's a powder coat. I think it's a red anodization on it, maybe. I'm not 100% sure on that. But, it's a great hammer. It's a 5-degree. I haven't had any trouble with it clearing plate struts. I think he made the tube just long enough that it isn't an issue on most pianos. What is an issue is you can see how wide that head is. And it is definitely a problem on, some Steinways where the pins are really close to the stretcher. On some Asian pianos, the tip is long enough that even though it would run into the stretcher, it's high enough so it kind of fits. But a lot of Steinways, some Mason and Hamlins, 2 or 3 pianos today, I ran into that issue where it would run into the stretcher. Also in uprights, sometimes if the pins are close enough to the action bolts, it'll want to run into those, even on some Yamahas down near the end. So this is definitely not a hammer that you can have in your kit and not have another hammer. So it's kind of a bummer. I carry one of those little Levitan like utility hammers, so it's really not so much issue. It adds minimal weight to my setup. But I've been loving this thing. I love the 5-degree angle. I love just the stiffness of it. The lightness is amazing. I think it's a good length. Now, if you're one of those people that uses like an 18-inch long Fuyan, then it's probably not your cup of tea, because I think this is the only length he has. I'm gonna guess it's somewhere in the maybe 12-inch range, maybe a little longer. I find it pretty ideal, but I like a shorter lever. It's plenty stiff. I would like to see if maybe he can find a way to make this head a little bit narrower, maybe increase the profile to give it some more rigidity, because I think the issue is if he makes this too much smaller, he's not going to be able to attach the torque tube the way he does here and keep that rigidity, because it's so stiff. It's almost worth the headache of either carrying an extension. I'd rather carry another hammer than use one of those extensions. I just can't tune with one of those. You just lose the feel. But I think that's the issue. It's just he's going to lose so much stiffness if he has to narrow that torque tube to make this spline smaller around, and then it'll have to increase the height of it to get more rigidity out of it. So, it's a great start. It's been my main everyday hammer. I've loved it. I also carry around the Levitan C lever because for concert work it's great. If you go and there's a piano mic'd up and, they don't really want you moving the lid around, it's really great for that and for offices and such. But this has really been the one I go to for now. So anyway, I hope that helps any of you that are thinking about buying it. I want to say these are around $360, $370, so it's definitely not a cheap hammer. I feel like it's great. I can't wait for him to make a different tip. Maybe make some longer tips. That would be great. Make one that just fits the pins great. And from there, I think, it's great. So anyway, ask any questions below. I'll try to answer them. Appreciate it. Thanks.